On the history wall, good news. 1720 just fell off the wall, which means time to go over it. Fascinating decade.
First, this is huge. The first serialization of novels in newspapers. How much fun is that? The next chapter is going to come out. Everybody's talking about it. You know, we used to have to wait for television shows. Think about waiting for a story. There's nothing new under the sun. Tibet becomes a Chinese protectorate. So this is part of the reason that China claims Tibet. But that's still bullshit and remains bullshit. I don't care who owns this app. And also in China, they suppressed the Formosa revolt, which was a big one. And then back in Europe, the first regular post between London and New England. Think how far away that is. And this is huge. Bouchon invents the punch cards for loom control. So right here, this is the beginning of computers. Those punch cards that were used all through the beginning of computers, right here, they started with looms. Speaking of things that are like right now, the South Sea bubble. English speculation craze. So much money of people trying to invest in the South Sea, just like Florida in that Marx Brothers movie, Coconuts. Same in the Mississippi Company run by John Law. Leads to the French national bankruptcy. Oh, man. So Spain occupies Texas. And Vermont, they have the first collective settlements. And then the oldest English publishing house, Longmans, is published. So, the start of a publishing house. Peter I proclaimed Emperor of all Russia. Pretty interesting Peters as far as things go. Gin becomes popular in England. The picture to see is by, not Durr, but the other great printmaker. It'll come to me. Montesquieu writes his Persian letters. I have a video about this one that's really beautiful. Bach's Brandenburg Concerto comes out. I mean, think about this. This is such high-level art. This is art that never gets, it stands unparalleled. And the beginning of vaccines. And the vaccines actually come from Turkey. After having her son inoculated for smallpox in Turkey, Lady Mary Wortley, daughter of Montagu, becomes the first person ever inoculated in the UK. So this guy Jenner that gets credit for the smallpox vaccine, this is just something that people were doing in Turkey. They noticed that the women working with the cows who got cowpox wouldn't get this, and they would inoculate them. And that's the beginning of inoculation. It was discovered from folk wisdom there. So, British Parliament forbids journalists to report debates. The Brits, they were always a censorious people. Then this is Iranian history. Since 1500 till now, the Safavid Empire of Iran collapses, and it was an incredible empire. Efficient state administration, major developments in fine arts, and then later it becomes the Shia gunpowder empire. And this is one of the three major stable economies of early modern times. So, yeah, this was a really important empire in world history. This is a fascinating one. Honest Jack, he was a criminal who was hanged after refusing to reform on his fellows, and at his execution, there was always ways to make money. Executions were big parties. It's terrible. You can also see how humans are like that. That kind of stuff repeats. A ghostwritten autobiography of him was sold. So at his execution, people were selling his autobiography. It might have been Daniel Defoe who wrote that. He was a journalist at the time, and it seems like the kind of thing that he would do. So Catherine the Great succeeds Peter in Russia, another fascinating figure in Russian history. She founds the Academy of Science in St. Petersburg, which was very big. Talking about things in history, Pope's translation of the Odyssey. That was a huge one. Alexander Pope was such a huge writer, and this really helped get this into the popular consciousness. Oh, I have Bouchon again for the punch cards. Dupe. Good old Papa. There's a bit of grass going on around here when it gets repeated. Swift writes Gulliver's Travels, which I also have a video about. Voltaire, banned from France, flees to England. The smartest guy in France, biting satirists, of course, they make him leave. The first circulating library in Edinburgh. So the first time where you have a regular library where you let the books circulate around. John Harrison invents the gridiron pendulum clock. This is very big. The Quakers demand and abolition of slavery. And so 1720s, it's the Quakers. They're the first people group to start saying, hey, this whole enslavement thing is bad. The Quakers are always at the forefront of stuff. So if you want to know where social justice is going to be in 30 years, look at what the Quakers are saying right now. By the way, support trans rights. That's one of the things they're saying. Coffee, first planted in Brazil, which was really big. This was from like the Arabia area, and then getting in Brazil, helped to change the world, not in a lot of bad ways too. Stephen Hale measures blood pressure for the first time, which is kind of crazy. You'd think this would have been a long time before this. Some things happen much earlier than you would have guessed, and some things happen later. This is a later one. Catherine dies, and Peter II comes. It's a fascinating time in Russian history. In China, Emperor Yongzheng prohibits opium smoking, which is a long-lasting prohibition in a moral sense. It was not seen as a good thing to be doing in this, a land where the Confucius rule. So it was the Brits bringing it back with the Opium Wars that made that such a tragedy and evil. It's just an evil time in history. In fact, that book is right here. The Opium War Through Chinese Eyes by the great Arthur Waley. He's one of the great collectors of ancient Chinese wisdom for us Western readers. Beautiful soul. Ben Franklin begins the Pennsylvania Gazette, just down the street from me where I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hometown guy made good. John Gay's The Beggar's Opera, which is a famous opera. Features Bering, discovers the Bering Strait between Alaska and Russia. And this is a big one for the Madrid Lodge of Freemasonry is founded, but it's soon suppressed by the Inquisition. So the Freemasons were, often getting harassed. Then the Spanish siege of Gibraltar during the war between Spain and England lasts 14 months, ends in the Treaty of Seville. And then this is my symbol for war, I think. I forgot about that one. It's a pretty good one. France, Spain, and England. It's the first use of Hessian mercenaries by England. Hire who you can to fight for you. Soon it's going to be AI. And the last thing is Baltimore founded. That's one I would have thought was earlier. It is funny, the timing of these things. So there's 1720s, and, there's just nothing new under the sun, is there?